Let's talk about carbon monoxide alarms. Do you really need one? Do you know where to put it? If not, stick around. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about carbon monoxide and carbon monoxide alarms. So first, what is carbon monoxide? It's a colorless, odorless gas, and that is why having an alarm is so important. We can't smell it, we can't see it, so we need to have a way of detecting it, especially while we're asleep. So where should we put them? It's recommended that you put one on each floor and near sleeping areas, and possibly, if you can, even in bedrooms. You also want them close to any source of carbon monoxide. So things that produce carbon monoxide would be things like your gas dryer, your car, a hot water tank, the furnace, your oven. What happens is the burner doesn't burn complete. You get a little bit of a backdraft, and that air coming back produces carbon monoxide into your environment. And that's where the hazard can be. So we want to make sure, one, these things are always cleaned and maintained, and two, we have detectors near it. So it's suggested for things like your hot water tank or furnace, or if you have an attached garage, we should have it about 5 to 20 feet from that area to make sure you can pick up the carbon monoxide readings. So when does it go off, and what are we expecting to see symptom-wise? So think of things like the common flu. So unfortunately, the symptoms are pretty similar, so it can sometimes be hard to tell, especially around the holidays. You may get a headache, dizziness, you're a little bit lightheaded. And some of the worst ones become shortness of breath. You have a loss of muscle control. You might start to get confused. Anytime we have symptoms, and especially if the alarm goes off, we want to make sure that we just get out of the house, get the family out, get the pets out, call 911 once you're outside of the house, and don't go back in until help arrives. We want to make sure that way that our family is safe and in the fresh air. Well, what if your alarm goes off and nobody has any symptoms? First, it's really important to know your alarm. So maybe somewhere you could have it written down. What does it mean? Or if my alarm goes off, I'll probably unplug it and I'll look at it and it says, hey, if there's 4 quick beeps and a 5-second off with 4 more beeps, that means there's an alarm. But did you know that this will just beep once every so often to let me know that the battery's low? Or it'll also beep once or make a sound, a chirp, to let me know that there's a problem with the device. So knowing what the device is saying is really important, because you can know the difference between, hey, I have a carbon monoxide problem and I need to get out right away, or hey, it's just time to buy a new carbon monoxide detector. So what about that? When should you get a new detector? Well, detectors are good for about 10 years. After that, you want to make sure you're replacing them. There's different types of detectors, as you can see here. I have a couple different brands and manufacturers. These are ones you're probably used to seeing, right? They can go into a wall, side of a wall up near the ceiling. They can be plugged in, with just one is hardwired. So if you've ever heard hardwired, that means the wire actually goes into it. And the other option would be a battery. So this is hardwired with a battery backup. So if you lose power in your house, there's no need to worry. You still have this detector working with that backup battery. So it is important to make sure you replace that battery every so often. The same with these wall plug-in detectors. They have a battery backup too to make sure that you're safe if your power goes out. The difference between these two right here is this one is basic, will just beep. This one here will give you readings of carbon monoxide. So that way you might have an idea that, hey, there is something here. But over time, they do go bad, they start to wear out, and you may get false or inaccurate readings. So I said 10 years is a good time to make sure you're looking at it to replace it. So let's say the alarm does go off and you look and it gives you those 4 beeps or whatever beeps yours says, and you decide, hey, we need to get out of the house. Nobody has any symptoms. So some things we want to make sure we do is that we shut off any gas appliances, things that could possibly produce carbon monoxide as we're on our way out. We can make sure we open windows and doors. That way we allow the carbon monoxide to escape from the house. The only problem sometimes that makes it a little more difficult for us to find it, but your safety is number one, to make sure that you can get out and everybody stays safe. So I concluded earlier, where should our detectors be, right? So you've seen a couple different ones. So if you're thinking about it, this one plugs into a wall, so that's good. And then this one here can go up near a ceiling or mount to a wall. Also good. Do you know why? Carbon monoxide is one of those gases that is high or low in the air depending on the weather. Your normal room temperature, it's going to be all throughout the air, and it's going to rise. As it gets colder and your temperatures outside get below freezing, you're actually going to notice that carbon monoxide is going to sit lower. So that's why it's important to have detectors low and some up above. Plug it in, especially if it's going to be low, it's going to come up through the house. You're going to get detector readings early. The plug-in ones, the issues I see sometimes though is people will just put things in front of it. They'll put furniture in front of it, or they'll have something covering it and not help it, but it's going to make the detector not work as well. So you want to make sure that it's also free from clutter and debris around it. If you're going to mount one, about 5 feet on your wall is a great spot to do that. That way you're catching both of those highs and lows with the temperatures depending on your weather. If you're in a warm weather environment where it doesn't freeze, it's really not going to make much of a difference. Use a ceiling fan, it's going to turn things around at night. So ideally, we want to be covered in every way we can. I have some that are plugged into the walls. I have some that are on the ceiling. The nice thing is they also make smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, so they can be up on the ceiling, they can work together, and then I can have one on the floor somewhere else to help you. So I hope these tips helped you out. Make sure you go out and check your carbon monoxide detectors today. Make sure they're not expired. Make sure you have good batteries in them, and you're ready to go to protect your family, because you can't see it, you can't smell it.